Want more Gators Breakdown? Join Gators Breakdown Plus. Starting at $3 a month, get access to unique episodes, plus a blog, chat room, giveaways, shout-outs, and more. Gators Breakdown Plus is furthering the interaction with fans and listeners like you. Head to gatorsbreakdown.supportingcast.fm to join Gators Breakdown Plus today. Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
All right, here we are again for another Gators Breakdown thought of the day here on YouTube. Pretty early for me here doing this one, but had to get it going, got to get the day going. But pretty good thought of the day here coming from, everybody's noticed it there with recruiting, of course, but a new vibe in recruiting, and that thought of the day comes from a question form there. So I am David Waters, host of Gators Breakdown. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SDC for another quick thought of the day here on YouTube. So a lot to discuss here in this short time. Rogue Viking says, "Get the coffee." Got the coffee already, so good. I am good there. But of course, as I said, it does feel different. This recruiting vibe, and the thought comes from Sean Abel. He sent this question on YouTube. He goes, "Do you think the changes with the on-field coaches, the new off-field hires like Corey Bell, and the new football facility will lead to an improvement in recruiting for this cycle?" There's a couple ways to look at it. First of all, I think we said, as I said, the vibe does feel different. And I think a lot of that vibe can come from those things that you just asked about. The on-field coaches, the new on-field coaches in the defensive backfield, new off-field hires like Corey Bell, and the new football facility, of course. Let's start with that facility. Look, I'm not a big believer, Florida's recruiting is the switch for Florida's recruiting is not going to flip because of a new facility. Does it help? Yes. It keeps you in the arms race. It keeps you up there with the other big schools. You have to have it to keep up. That's the importance of the football facility. Not having one can really hurt you. I don't know how much it can actually help you. I think it, right now, I think it helps a little bit because the recruits can actually see it. They see it being built. They know what's on the horizon. They see the facade of the beams up there as it's being built. So I think it does help. It keeps you in the race. Maybe the first couple cycles, I think, with this new facility, I think it really will probably rub pretty hard on them. Those are I think the classes, these next 2 or 3 classes can really, they can really get caught up in the atmosphere of a new facility for the Gators. When they've been there for a while, I think it kind of tails off. But I think, these first couple classes when this thing's being built, in the first couple years that it's open and everybody's talking about it, I think can really help, 1, 2 recruits there that maybe you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. But as I said, it's not. It can hurt you a lot more by not having one than I think it can help you by having one. But it certainly makes a difference now that they can see it. I really do think it helps Florida. But of course, it's not the only reason recruiting's been lagging just a little bit in the last few years, and it's not going to be the reason Florida necessarily shoots up in recruiting rankings either. That's the way I look at it. There, you have to have one to keep up, but it's not the end-all, be-all in recruiting. You still have to have, and what my next point is going to be, still going to have the organization and the right people in place. And I think that's where recruiting for Dan Mullen in Florida started off on a bad foot. The original recruiting staff hires, some of the original coaching staff hires, like Ron English there, it didn't lend itself to good recruiting. And I think the vibe also comes from that new group of coaches and the new group of recruiting staff there behind the scenes there for Florida. Well, McKeown Ratliff's been there for a while now, and I think him getting the experience there of being able to do this, I think his experience is paying off now. He's been there for a few years, and he kind of knows what to expect. But it's the people around him, I think, as well. Jules Montanaro comes in as a big part of the recruiting staff now, and you've had some new faces in the last year or so. Corey Bell comes in, a former defensive back coach for the Gators. He's behind the scenes now, and assistant director of player personnel. Kevin Bolden, who's getting pretty good rave reviews so far. And you've seen these guys on social media be able to kind of relate to these kids. You've seen Kevin Bolden, those new 360 videos Florida's putting out, and Bolden's doing one for himself out there. Dan Mullen's done one. The coaching staff has done some things, I think, that are connecting to the kids a little bit more on social media. I think that really helps. I don't know as far as Dan Mullen and his approach, if it's changed all that much. But I think the things around, I think once the kids get on campus and the approach from the coaching staff, I don't think it's changed from all that much as far as personality. I don't think Dan Mullen's changed his personality at all. I think he's going to be the same guy he's going to be. But I think the approach can be different in the things you do around recruiting. So, showing in the facility, doing the social media things, that stuff I think is getting changed and caught up a little bit. The photo shoots, the Florida's had the white background photo shoots, and that's the easiest way, for the cutouts for commits. But now you see the light up Gator head behind them and more backgrounds that they can choose from and stuff. I hate to say it, but that stuff matters. You're seeing Florida catch up in that regard a little bit, especially when that new facility comes. Watch photo shoots then. And I know that a lot of people like to hound on Florida for, it's just a plain white background for a photo shoot. Well, they are changing it up now, but wait till that new facility gets built for photo shoots. That part, that like I said, that when the facility can make a little bit of a difference, that's going to be one part of it. You're going to have this probably set up photo shoot room, and that things like that really make a difference. But it really goes to this staff, I think, but coming to get the organization from the recruiting side. When Dan Mullen in his first couple years on the recruiting side, the organization was sad, to say the least. They couldn't not a lot of agreement on the same recruits they wanted to go after. Some of the staff didn't know who some of the other staff was talking to. The organization needed to be better, and I think that faltered a little bit towards the beginning of Dan Mullen's career at Florida. Has now gotten better, as I said, bringing Corey Bell, bringing Kevin Bolden along. John Herron Hova, has been there instrumental in South Florida recruiting. I think watching him and Corey Bell in South Florida, however long they are together at Florida, will be something to watch when you look at recruiting in that way. But it's so much better. The organization, the same mindset, the same message from the recruiting staff of what needs to be done for recruiting, and those guys are on the same page now. I think that's also lending to the vibe here. But then also, I think we really do have to go to those new on-field coaches and some examples of what we see here for a new vibe in recruiting. It got off to a bad start a little bit. You had Sam McCall, safety, committed. He decommits, and now an FSU commit. And Jaheim Singletary from Jacksonville commits to Ohio State. So you're like, oh man, there's two targets there that is in the Florida defensive backfield, and now, or it could have been McCall was. Singletary was a huge target, and we'll see. He's talking to Florida again. We'll see what happens with Jaheim Singletary there. The 5-star DB from Jacksonville. So you definitely you want him in the fold if you can get him. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out there. But what I think you have to like in the first big example right now, and part of the question says, do you think the changes in on-field coaches? Well, the on-field coaches changes was in the secondary. And how does that help recruiting? And look, your top recruit right now for the 2022 class is Julian Humphrey, a cornerback there from the state of Texas. He's your top recruit in the class right now. Who is his main recruiter? Jules Montanaro. So you can already see Montanaro making a difference there in recruiting. I mean, Julian Humphrey is the 133rd ranked player in the country, the 15th ranked cornerback in the country. And he mentioned many a times how instrumental Jules Montanaro was in his recruitment. And I'll try and pull up the quotes here from what he had to say. about Montanar and his relationship there, but it was Montanar that played a big part in bringing in Julian Humphrey. And he goes, "quote It fits me." This is what he told 24/7 Blake Alderman. He goes, "Fits me because of the good relationship with the coaches. Coach Jules really wants me to be a part of the team, and Coach Mullen wants me to be a part." He was saying, "I have a bright future at Florida. I can really make a huge impact playing for 3 years and getting drafted. That is the plan." And he goes on to say, "Well, me and Coach Jules have been talking for a while now before he offered me. We were talking about all the amazing things Florida offers and does make the player become the best version of themselves. I talk to Coach Jules and Coach Mullen every day." So there you go. Part of the question was, what are the new hires doing? There's the best example of it so far. Julian Humphrey, the top-ranked player in the 2022 class for the Gators right now. Jules Montanar, very instrumental in bringing him on board. So paid off in that regard already. you have a player that's already committed to Florida. It's paid off there with one of the new coaching staff hires. So now, also, you go and look at the example for that, and Azariah Thomas, also 2022 athlete. One, I think, a top 100 player in the country. Also mentioned Jules Montanar so far. So that's a player to look for who's already mentioned Montanar. And, it's a big time target that you're going after. I think he's visiting FSU now with a 7-on-7 camp. So we'll see how that goes. He's going to take his visits and all that, as I said. But Azariah Thomas mentioned Montanar as well so far, so something to look there. But also Wesley McGriff, and it's one of the other new hires. And Jarrell Stinson. Jarrell Stinson's committed to Auburn right now. He would look to be a defensive back for the Gators, and on kind of flip watch as well. A lot of people are saying we'll see how that comes out. But Jarrell Stinson, a relationship with McGriff before from Auburn. McGriff comes over from Auburn to Florida. So Stinson mentioned McGriff, his relationship with McGriff. Finally met a couple weeks ago on when visits opened up, finally when the dead period ended, the first weekend in March. So that's worth watching there. So that's you already have one in the fold heavily due to Montanar, Azariah Thomas, Jarrell Stinson. We'll see what happens with those guys, but those are two players I think to really watch out for as far as what do you want to see the new staff do. That's Thomas and Stinson are two targets out there to maybe get a little more a better feel for maybe how recruiting will go with some of these new staff hires there. So that's the gist of it. I think that's where you can see now. Here's the thing: there is a new vibe. Absolutely, you feel it, you see it. But just because it's new doesn't mean it will pay off. We got to see it pay off, of course. Florida's got to close on these. You got you got Walter Nolan out there basically naming Florida his leader. You got Evan Stewart out there, the big wide receiver from Texas. Basically, he has come out and said Florida's his leader, and he's got a great relationship with Nick Evers, the quarterback there from Texas. Can Florida close on him as well? And he dominated camp last week, so you can feel it. Florida's getting better players on campus. That's got to translate into commitments for the Gators, and we'll see we'll see if it pays off. It does feel different, but just because it feels different doesn't mean it will pay off. But we'll see. It does feel better. I think Florida, they've set themselves up well right now going into July and August, when I think the flood commits will come in July and August. It's behind for everybody right now. As I told you guys last week, don't be discouraged because there wasn't commits coming out of the visits the first visit weekend, and then 24/7 puts up an article sometime this week basically saying, hey, look, recruiting's lagging behind for everybody right now. These kids are going to want to take their visits. They're waiting. They are checking out all these visits because they missed them last year. I think the flood's going to come in July and August, and Florida's putting themselves in really, really good shape in that regard with this new vibe in recruiting. So I think there's a couple things we could go deeper into this, but quick thought of the day here as we look into that. But those are the highlights for me of why it is a little bit different, and also answering the question there that Sean, man, thank you for sending that question there. But yeah, the new off-field hires, the new recruiting staff hires, new on-field coaches, the facility, all that I think is playing a different role here in this vibe feeling a little bit different for the Gators. And we got to see it pay off. We definitely want to see it pay off. Let me go to the comments right quick, see if there's anything. Rogue Viking says, my biggest off-season question is how much of an impact does Coach Savage have on Cox? Cox has other tools to be next Javon Curse if he fills out his frame. I'm going to try to stick on topic here, but Rogue, I'll try and come back to that, for another episode here. Boom. Jeff Godwin, I think we should just let Dan do what he does best, and that is coach. Well, we can sit here and talk about it. I mean, nothing wrong with talking about what he does. I mean, everything can be better right now, and not time to take that next step. But absolutely, but he does about as well as he could so far in 2018, 2019, 2020. But we are going to discuss here what can be better or what doesn't need to be better. So we'll see it all play out. All right, there we go. There's Eddie R says, it breaks my brain that these kids would rather play somewhere like Georgia when Dan is clearly a superior head ball coach. Bama makes sense, but Kirby does not. And we'll see how that plays out. We've seen Georgia take a hit on the recruiting trail a little bit these couple weeks. Some big-time targets that many thought could lean Georgia or go Georgia have gone somewhere else now. So we'll see where that pays off. There still will be a top 5 class in recruiting. We'll see how it goes, but we'll see as the years go by, as time goes by, if the recruiting development more part of it will be viewed as differently. Look, because part of recruiting is salesmanship and telling these guys what they want to hear. I'm not so sure this staff does that. Not saying they should. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying this staff doesn't do that as well as others as far as just salesmanship. I think this staff is just very to the point, and some kids want to be wined and dined a whole lot. I'm not so sure this staff is good at that, nor if they want to be good at that part of it. They have their sales pitch. Come play with me. You're going to be successful. I'm going to develop you. I'm going to get you to the NFL. But, some kids want to be wined and dined and hear other things. So, and I think this could come up there in this new vibe. Can it start soon? I've always been a big proponent of stars want to play with stars. Can Evan Stewart and Walter Nolan commit soon? At least one of them. Maybe get the ball rolling. You get a 5-star right now like Walter Nolan, who's was thought to be a Michigan lean going into visits, and now Georgia, Alabama could thought to be in the mix before it's all said and done, but comes out here and says, I'm going to commit to Florida. Could that be a spark? Could that get the ball rolling? And this new vibe of recruiting continues off of a big time early commitment in sometime in July or August. I think that can really that can play a part here. I've always said stars want to play with stars. I think that's what Georgia has been able to do. They get the stars, and other guys want to play with those type of players. I think that's been a big part of it, and we haven't necessarily seen it fully pay off for them. They still win a whole lot of ball games, compete for championships, but they're still missing that ultimate prize the last couple of years. And then the longer that goes on with that type of recruiting, the pressure builds and the questions start to linger of, can, no matter how good Kirby recruits, can he get it done? So I think, that works. The longer that goes on, the more that works against a program like Georgia. But I don't think it's necessarily at that point yet. So, but I think for Florida right now, the spark could be getting an early commitment from one of these big time kids, big time targets that everybody wants. They just got the 5-star label. They made great relationships that first week, in that first visit week when the dead period ended. All those big time targets were on campus together. I think they created a bond. I think they created a relationship, and it's going to take one of those guys to call it early, and maybe the dominoes start falling in recruiting a little bit for Florida and those big time prospects that we all want to see in orange and blue. So, all right, there we go. That'll do it for this thought of the day. Went a little bit longer than I thought I would. That seems to happen a good bit here on these. But everybody, thanks for hopping in here and taking part in it. Remember, if you haven't listened to it yet, the most recent episode of Gators Breakdown It's up talking about what the preseason magazines are saying about the Gators. Braden Gall from Athlon will be on Gators Breakdown next week to take an even deeper look into the Athlon preseason magazine. So a lot of preseason magazine coverage coming up here on Gators Breakdown, the most recent episode as well. That'll do it for this thought of the day. I am David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.